From deep in the heart of Central Texas, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast, brought to you by Texas Fishing Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, your hostess with the mostest, Dustin Vaughn Warnke. So excited that you've taken the opportunity to download our show or stream it online, however you are listening. Thank you so much for doing so. We love you guys. And we're rocking it, man. Third of 3 podcasts from Venice, Louisiana this week. This is the last one that is on the docket that I've got in the can, as it were, that I've been thinking about releasing, and just thought it would be good. This is still kind of at a fishing event, but this has to do with all kinds of stuff relating to stuff that I talk about in this podcast all the time. The legacy we leave, the outdoors, the sharing it with our youth, getting kids involved in the outdoors, all those kind of things that are involved in what we do as sportsmen from the big picture perspective versus just going and catching and killing stuff. And I've got a really special guest on this show, Theophile Bourgeois from Bourgeois Fishing Charters, and I'm really excited to have him on because what a guest. I mean, what an incredible guy. You can check him out at neworleansfishing.com. That's neworleansfishing.com. He's really easy to talk to, really fun guy to deal with, and just lost his dad. I mean, he is an incredible story. He lost his dad in a plane crash, and back in August of this year, actually, and is just kind of picking up the pieces from that and talking about the legacy his dad left, and just some of the amazing things about the outdoors and the outdoor legacy that we all have for our next generation. And he has kids, you know, and he's a child of a fishing guide, and is a fishing guide now himself, and also a rock star. Them Old Ghost is his band. You can look them up on several different places on the internet. I've got their Spotify channel on the Spotify app that I have on my phone. I've been listening to their stuff and jamming out. Really cool soul rock, you know, soul southern rock. Southern soul rock, I guess is the best way to say it. But anyway, we had a great conversation. This is an awesome podcast. This is one of my better ones of the year, I think. And the year's almost done, so this is kind of a good one to end the year with. But before I get into that, let's talk about some sponsors. We've got Okuma back as a sponsor of the podcast this week again. And we're going to be talking about the Syros and the Serrano rods, and get into that right away. So we can thank Okuma, OkumaFishingUSA.com for being a sponsor of this show, and we want to show them some love with their 2 things and their 2 rods that we're going to feature on this podcast, and really excited to have them on board. So, looking for a high performance bass rod that won't break the bank? Okuma's Syros bass rods were designed to be fished by anglers of all skill levels. These 13 specific rods were built on a responsive and durable 24-ton carbon blank and utilize the Okuma's proprietary UFR Ultimate Flex reinforced tip technology for up to a 400% lifting power. Syros bass rods provide anglers maximum strength without sacrificing sensitivity. Learn more about Syros bass rods at OkumaFishinguSA.com. I did it again. Search for the collections and bass rods, and under the products of the bass rods, you'll see the Syros bass rods. Also talking about the Serrano rods. Okuma Serrano bass rods were meticulously designed for the competitive angler in mind. These 9 technique-specific rods were built on responsive and durable 24-ton carbon blanks that feature Okuma's proprietary UFR Ultimate Flex reinforced tip technology. They also utilize genuine wind grip and EVA rear split grip handle designs that offer all-day casting and comfort and extreme performance. Love these rods. Got to fish with some of these rods, some of these Okuma rods at this event that I'm doing this podcast at, that I recorded live, and just awesome. I mean, I love Okuma. The Helios spinning reel and bait casting reel, really smooth, really nice budget price rods and reels. You can check these out at your local Academy Sports and Outdoors. You can check these out at your local, all kinds of different sporting retailers carry Okuma, or OkumaFishingUSA.com. That's OkumaFishingUSA.com. Last podcast we talked about the Fluoro Stretch fluorocarbon. which is kind of like a fluorocarbon, but it's really even better than the regular fluorocarbon. And so just a lot of really great things. Also, their Bait Lab line of swim baits and other baits that they have that they're just coming out with. So the Soft Steel, Fluoro Stretch, and the Bait Lab line are new this year, and I'm trying to give them some love on those too. So, but these Serrano and Ceros bass rods are really cool. So, wanted to show them some love. So again, okumafishingusa.com. That's okumafishingusa.com. Check out Okuma. All right, now before we forget, I also have some game cam stuff going on here for Game Cam SD Card Reader. Mobile Game Cam SD Card Reader plugs right into your iPhone or your Android, whatever kind of phone you have, and every kind of jack you've got on your phone. It will work. And what you have to do is just email me your photos, your Game Cam photos. Dustin at dustinsprojects.com. That's Dustin at dustinsprojects.com. One photo per person must be entered per 4-week contest period. All entries from true game camera photos must be stamped with detailed camera information. Participants must reside within the United States of America. One winner will be announced every 4-week period. We're getting ready to announce our first one. Photos will be publicly shared and voted upon with the engagement metrics, and photo entry participants release their use of the photo purposes for the contest, you know, all the other fancy stuff that goes with it. So anyway, just send me your game cam photos. Get them shared on fishgame.com's Facebook page if they're good, and just send those to Dustin at dustinsprojects.com. That's Dustin at dustinsprojects.com. You can enter to win a Betionol SD card reader that's mobile, that you can just plug into your phone or your computer and read micro or standard SD cards, and these things are awesome. I've got a whole stack of them here that I just sent into the company to give away to you guys for doing that. So be sure to do that. The engagement on this has been pretty good, actually, so I'm really excited to have the chance to share some game cam photos that are kind of cool, really cool ones. Got some out of West Texas, got some out of East Texas, got some out of Central Texas Hill Country. It's been really fun, so that's been really great. Also, please subscribe to our newsletters if you haven't done so already. We have the Tactical Tuesday, we have the Tactical Practical Tuesday, the Wilderness Wednesday, and the Thursday Texas State of the Outdoor Nation. Those are free, and we also have some emails from our sponsors and things like that come up that I've had some really good ones lately. One from Outdoor Edge and with their Razor knife, Razor Max knife, Razor knife, which is really cool. And then also want to not forget about some of the articles that I've got written. Just submitted some to Chester, Editor-in-Chief. Chester Moore's been on the podcast many times. Some cool stuff coming up, guys. Air Force Air Guns, Talon P. I did a review on that. I've already done reviews on those, but I just kind of did another thing to show them some love since they're one of our web sponsors. Also did a review on a Hatsan Novastar, new air gun from Hatsan with a beautiful Turkish walnut stock, just incredibly beautiful stock. It was an interesting looking air gun too, probably one of the most interesting things you'll find in my gun safe, next to the Talon P from Air Force. But the Hatsan Novastar, you can check that out. And then I did one on the Razor Max knife from Outdoor Edge, razor knife that's a fillet knife, razor knife, really cool. You can get those on Amazon. I've got the links in that. And then those should be live or going live by the time this podcast releases. Should be before the new year. They should all go live. And then I've got one on the Barnett Youth compound bows. My son is shooting the Barnett Vortex Light, and he's working his way into the Barnett Vortex. And these are all great compound bows to get kids involved into archery and 3D shooting and all that other fun stuff. So those are just some things to consider. Check out at fishgame.com and in the newsletters that I'll have content rolling live on that. And we're pretty much scheduled out for the rest of the year for the rest of our content coming out of the end of December, and anyway, rolling into the new year with some really cool stuff. So really great things in the magazine to come. SHOT Show's coming up. ICAST will come up after that. NRA will come up before ICAST. I mean, there's just be a lot of things going on like usual when the new year starts for us. So really great things. So thank you guys so much for watching, reading, and listening. Check out our stuff. I'm going to end this podcast where I normally do at the end of the show, when I record it live, so I won't do an end bumper. But just want to thank you guys so much. This has been a great experience for me here at Texas Fishing Game to do this podcast and to connect with all of you guys, and just a dream come true to be able to do this show for the last, almost 5 years now, off and on, but basically mainly 5 years now that I've done all these shows, well over 100 shows, and just rocking it, man, just having a lot of fun. So check out our sponsors, check out Okuma Fishing USA, check out fishgame.com, check out my personal website, dustinsprojects.com. Watch some of my YouTube videos. You can also check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/dwarnke. And check us out also on your buddy Dustin's Pride Outdoor Network channel on Roku or Amazon Fire TV, streaming TV service, streaming TV outdoor network, and really, really good things to come there. The Adventures of Field, which is one of the shows I help produce on there, and then Mac and Prowler's Hunting Adventures. They've got a lot of great content on there to check out. So anyway, thank you guys so much again for watching, reading, listening. Here is my interview with Theophile Bourgeois. Very special interview for this podcast about the outdoor legacy and the legacy that we build every day with our youth and other people in our lives, and the legacy one day we leave behind. That's the easiest way to say that. Really excited about this podcast with Theophile. So incredible guy. So again, I'll put his information in the show notes. NewOrleansFishing.com. That's NewOrleansFishing.com. Bourgeois fishing charter. He's taking over for his dad. Got an awesome redfish on his business card that he's got here. I'll put a picture of him in the show notes as well. So anyway, here we go with our interview. Thank you guys so much. From deep in the heart of Southeast Louisiana, it's the Best of the Outdoors podcast, brought to you by Texas Fish and Game Magazine, the voice of the Texas outdoor nation. I'm your humble host, the hostess with the mostest, the host that boasts the most roast, Dustin Von Warnke, joined here by my guest, Theophile Bourgeois. And how you doing today, Theophile?
Doing well. Doing very well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you on the show. You cooked an incredible meal tonight. I've just got to say that much on the show. Redfish, what do we call it? Theophile?
Redfish Theophile.
Theophile. That's great.
It's been, I watched my dad cook redfish that way my whole life, so a long time. And it's fairly simple. You know, I guess I take for granted it's simple, but, you know, I think we have the link to the recipe on our website. And
which is?
NewOrleansFishing.com. Hit the link. Check it out.
We don't really give that at the end, but I'll put that in the show notes.
Man, I really worked hard on that pitch.
I know you did. That was a good pitch. I like that a lot. So in Venice, Louisiana, knocking out a podcast, and I'll release this one later after the event, of course, but tell us a little bit about your background, about the legacy your dad has, or had, and just the situation of what is going on with you in Louisiana fishing and just fishing in large, because I have people that listen all over to the show.
All right. So, well, my dad started the company, Bourgeois Fishing Charters, I believe in 1995. So I was about in first grade, and every weekend, every free moment I had in my life was out there fishing with him and building the first lodge we had was our hunting camp. We had a little decrepit duck hunting camp that he got from my uncle, and we turned that into a little lodge, bed and breakfast, and that was my first job. I deckhand out there with him. Go out there every summer. Essentially, my job was just make sure we had ice chests, ice, cut the grass, and then I would just hang out with the cook. That's when I heard all these just jokes. I've forgotten more jokes that a young man shouldn't have heard. But God, man, the cool things I heard and the funny conversations, learning how to play cards with my uncle while he's cooking, drinking Coors Light. You know, but anyway, so he started this and he built it from the ground up, man. And when we were speaking earlier, when he got into it, I think there were 67 licensed guides in Louisiana, and I don't know what the number is now, but I'm sure it's in the thousands over.
Oh, I'm sure.
It's absolutely. I mean, just in Lafitte, I mean, you got so many guys, and God bless him. It's a great way to make a living. But luckily, he got in early and built it from where we now have a lodge. It's a 100-year-old schoolhouse that sleeps. We used to sleep up to 52 people, but we had a lot of bunks.
Huge.
It's a lot. It's 10,000 square feet.
Holy
smokes. It was from kindergarten to high school for the Lafitte Barataria area.
Right.
And so to make things more comfortable, we got rid of some of the bunks, and so now we sleep 32 people.
That's still a lot of people.
It is, and we got a fully staffed kitchen. We got a chef in house, so meals are always prepared at lodging. We got a huge operation. So we got that set up, and while this was going on, I had forged my own path. I had a tattoo shop, and I've been tattooing for the past 15 years. And I also play a little music. So fishing and the outdoor lifestyle was always just a part of me and my heritage and what I did as a pastime. I'm a licensed guide, have been for about a decade, but outside of like the first 2 years I got my license, I really didn't practice it because it was a thing that I'd split myself between tattooing and music, and for me to guide and feel good about taking people's money to fish, sure. I felt like I was doing them a disservice by not being out there constantly.
Yeah, constantly.
So for me, it was just like, I'm going to do this for me. So now, fast forward, and for people who don't know, my dad was, suffered an accident and went down in his plane. He had a seaplane operation where he'd fly people out to the Chandelier Islands, and he got caught up in some bad weather. And we still have a lot of questions about what happened. We don't truly know the full story. But he went down doing what he did and what he loved. And if you talk to him, and I talk to him a lot about this, and that's the way you could ask a pilot how they would go out. That's what they want.
Sure.
So way earlier than what anybody wants. He was 55. So it was a shock, man. It was it's a harsh reality, a tough pill to swallow, and dealing with that and moving forward. It's the dichotomy of taking the time to relax and process it all, on top of actually having to move forward with the business.
Sure.
It's been, it's interesting to say the least. But he luckily raised me to always keep a positive mindset.
Sure.
And he gave me the tools to deal with this. So it's tough. It's a huge weight that's been dropped on me, but also at the same time, I feel good about it. I feel prepared for it.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, man, it's good. It's the only thing I can do is make it good, because it's gonna keep hitting. Your life keeps rolling. So
I hate to say it's making lemons out of lemonade. 'Cause
absolutely,
it's such a trite thing to say, but I mean, it's really carrying on his legacy in a way.
Yeah, right. 100%.
And one reason why I wanted to have you on is because something I talk a lot about on this show, especially when it's just me on the microphone closing, because when I know you haven't listened to the show, but I start a podcast solo and I end it solo and I have a guest in the middle. And I always kind of show a way at the end of the show of how to give back and how to leave a legacy to our next generation. To not just that, but how to leave a legacy within your family and how to carry on that legacy of the hunting and fishing lifestyle of the outdoors, and however that manifests itself in people's lives. And the people listen to this most of the time like to hunt and fish and aren't antis or anything crazy like that. So it resonates well with the audience. Right. But I mean, it's just one of those things that you've got big shoes to fill, obviously.
Yes.
But at the same time, I mean, I think you're up to the task, is what you're saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I realized pretty quickly in the days after this all happened, the thoughts arise of, how do you fill those shoes? Right. And I realized very quickly and immediately that I shouldn't waste any time trying to replace him, because that's not going to happen. He was him and I'm me, and he is still within me. Sure. He's my dad. I learned everything from him.
Sure.
So there's a part of him I carry with me, and all I can do is be myself and just carry this legacy on to the next chapter. And I'm not the first to deal with this. We all have to deal with grief and loss, and my position and my situation is a bit unique, but it's still, it's nothing I can't get through. There could be a ton worse, to be left with a beautiful legacy and the lodge and everything my dad built. And when I say built, not just in a metaphorical sense, or just like he physically built it. He was a carpenter, and he passed that trade on to me as well. And everywhere you look in the fishing lodge, when you come down, like down to the trim, to every piece of things, like it was his touch, his hand on it.
That's really cool.
So there's memories associated with every aspect of the place, and everywhere I look at our hunting camp and the memories of us building it, me as a teenager, before I was a teenager and up until then, and it's like there's just nothing but positivity surrounding all of these places.
Sure. Good memories.
And it's just time for me. I've got two young sons. I got a 7 and a 10-year-old, and they are so much more in tune with fishing and the outdoors than I was at their age, it's exciting. Because for me, there was a lot of it. My childhood was like, okay, I'm into fishing, but I'm not into waking up that early all the time.
Right.
You know, like so
to go guide people to go catch fish.
Oh man,
right.
my kids impress me all the time because they never give me trouble waking up.
That's cool.
And I'm like, dude, I was not like that as a kid.
Not like I was
like
when I was
it
a
was
kid,
like late teens before I actually was like, all right, I'm gonna wake up.
Yeah.
Because it's like, God. But what I did learn, and this is for me a big philosophy on passing down that legacy, because I feel like as a kid I was kind of drug along on a lot of fishing trips, and it was like okay, we want you to go fishing, but also it was like, we're gonna catch your limit.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And that being out there, like past the time when I wanted to be out there, kind of put like this sourness to the experience where it's like, man, this is a long time to be out here hot in the sun.
And it's just about grinding out a box so you can make your limit.
Yeah.
Which we all go through, I think, as outdoorsmen to some degree,
right,
as we age and mature in the outdoors. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
I think we go through stages. I mean, most people would agree with me there.
Absolutely. And we were just speaking about, how I'm okay with reducing the limits on trout. Like 25 trout, I'm good. I'd be good with 15. I mean 12. Sure. It's not that big of a deal for me. I think that to change the mentality from, how can we limit out if it's not a good trip, if we don't limit out. I think that's dangerous, and it's not, we have to preserve the fisheries for tomorrow and let the stock build up again.
Right.
But to get back to my point about the way I approach fishing and the way I approach a lot of things with my children and the age that they're in, when we go fishing, and when I got my boys with me, they run the show in the sense of how long we're out there. Because I say, hey, this is your trip. I want you to have fun. As soon as you're not having fun, we'll pack it in. Because I want them to enjoy it. And it's worked well. Same thing with hunting. When I go with myself, that's my time, and I'll go sit as long as I want. But when they're with me, it's like, you run the show. I want them to enjoy it. I don't want them to be bored and out of touch with it. So, and it's worked well for me because they wake up. They don't give me any trouble. They want to go. They constantly want to go, and it's great because to me, I think like you're investing in. Hopefully, I can keep them involved with this and keep them out of trouble as they get older. Yeah. Because there's so much kids can get into.
Yeah, you're right. I've said it so many times in the show, and my listeners get tired of hearing it. But the kids that hunt and fish don't steal and deal. That's something. It was a bumper sticker I saw like back in the '80s.
That's true.
But it's true. I mean, it's just kind of like the things that they do in Kentucky with the fully automatic rifles and stuff like that. And the kids are out there, banging out all this lead and everything downrange. They were like, those aren't the kids that do the mass shootings. Those aren't the kids that are out there wreaking havoc on the world. It's the kids that don't have those experiences, that don't have the parents that invest that time like you're investing in the next generation. And we talked on the last show that we recorded here about it being about whatever the outdoors is to you is more of a spiritual journey, not necessarily just about going and catching and killing. I'm talking about this on the show all the time, and that's what makes my podcast different from a lot of people, is that I don't believe that it's all about limiting out and all about shooting the biggest and catching the best and everything like that. Although that's important to a lot of people, but it's not everything.
Right.
There's so much more of a depth to a spiritual growth that we go through the outdoors.
Right. And I think if you're basing the quality of the experience on, did I catch this arbitrary number of fish?
Or was it successful?
Right. And you're missing all the beautiful things about being out in nature. The fact that you're not at your job that you might not particularly enjoy. Or you're not, it's easy to find gratitude if you're willing to look for it, And you're out there and you're in nature. And it's it's not like tree hugging hippy dippy stuff. I love that, but it's hard to not see a sunrise completely unobstructed, and you just got marsh, and you see the colors, the vibrant pinks and purples in the sky, and not feel some kind of way, And to say, well, I saw that, but I didn't limit out, and I had a bad day. It's like, man, you're missing something,
One of the things you may not know about me, Theophile, is that I'm part of a fishing ministry called Saltwater Outfitters, and we do work with soldiers and their families. They come on a weekend and basically put them out on a catfish jug fishing trip, basically.
Oh, cool.
You understand in Louisiana, jug fishing. But, and we see a transformation in those soldiers. And my listeners have heard all this before, but we see a transformation of this hardened war-fighting, soldier that comes to a realization that nature softens his heart, and he's a better man for his family.
Right.
And it's therapeutic. And it brings to mind two guests that I've had on the show before: Cal Gonzalez, who's our saltwater editor, and Rick Ward, who's the urban air gunner, who's on the hunting side. Just a friend of mine that I've had on the show before. And Rick Ward lost his son a couple of years ago, and was supported so wholly. And we did like a hour and a half podcast together, so totally by the outdoor industry people, by the people that were guiding in that area,
Right.
the people that were having that kind of impact, that he had made an impact on them. Well, they had an impact on him.
Right.
And that's the community that I'm talking about there. But as far as the spiritual side of it, Cal Gonzalez is going through kidney dialysis right now. He had somebody code on him right next door to where his dialysis station was, and they couldn't revive her. And he said, fishing to me brought me peace in that horrific time that I had to witness, this lady die. And it's just one of those things where I was like, dude, it's so much deeper than just going out there and wetting a line.
Yeah, it really is. And I think your experience in life becomes easier if you're willing to accept the beauty in simplicity, the things you take for granted, and just out there there's nowhere you look where you can't find some inspiration or some beauty.
Sure.
In just the wildlife that you might see.
Yeah. There's tons here.
It's
no joke there.
It's everywhere, man. And I think it's some people I think have blinders on to that, or maybe
especially in our society now.
Yeah, and I think it's easy, especially for a man, to kind of shrug it off, and I don't know. There's the kind of macho mentality where it's like, okay, whatever, but I never miss an opportunity to kind of step and just take a closer look at a flower, or just like what type of little weird bug might be. Like, that stuff is interesting to me because I don't know, when I was a kid, I just loved watching Discovery Channel and seeing like the up close shots of just insects and all these things, and it's like you're out there, and if you take a moment, I was walking on a nature trail. We behind our house, behind my kid's school actually, there was this elevated little wood walking trail through the swamp, and we were walking through it one day, and I told my kids slow down. They were kind of running through it, and I was like, if you slow down and look around, you might be surprised what you would see. And sure enough, like a minute or two later, when you hear this little and I look, and there's this little garden snake wrapped up around this branch, and it's got this little frog in its mouth. Wow. And it's just cool stuff like this, like, oh man, this is Discovery Channel. This is so cool.
This is Discovery Channel in real life.
We sat there and watched this, and it's like, it's a ferocious nature of nature, but it's still this cool thing to witness in the wild. It's like, wow, look at that. You're actually seeing a snake eating a frog. Like, how often do you see this cool stuff?
Right.
Just just stopping and paying attention, and you'd be surprised what's right under your nose, and you're kind of missing it. And that's just, I think, a metaphor for life in general. Like, slow down, man. Take a breath and appreciate your freedom, your health, your ability to even get outdoors, and the fact that you live in a state that has a 25 trout limit. Yeah. That's absurd. Honestly, man, it's been that way my whole life, and I think it's excessive. I don't want to clean all them fish.
As a guide, yeah, I'm sure. Well, not just that. I mean, the other thing, the fishing game laws in Louisiana have got to be some of the most liberal in the world, in America for sure. Next to Texas, but there's things that blow me away when I'm fishing. And the first time we fished Delacroix, our first Confluence event, 2017, I didn't realize there was no size limit on the bass because it was brackish water.
Yeah.
And I was like, that doesn't seem right to fillet like a 10-inch bass. But that's what, I mean.
What's it like in Texas? So you have no idea what the regulations are on bass.
It's like, we have size limits on every bass, no matter where you catch them.
Right.
And so it's just like, and then we have bag limits too, and just about everywhere. And so it's just one of those things where I was like, but I think the whole mindset here was that those bass, if saltwater comes in, are going to die anyway. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't matter. I guess. I don't know. I really don't know. I mean,
no, it's something good to look into. I'm not sure either.
But I mean, it's just something I just kind of thought that. But that all being said, one of the reasons, I'll just be candid where I'm going with this. the catching and all that stuff is great. The meat hauls that you make with the one reason why I do this podcast is for my own therapy, for my own creative outlet. Speaking of the mental health and the benefits and stuff of the outdoors, what Rick Ward and I talked about on our show together was that suicide now is more of the norm now. It's more rampant than it's ever been. But we live in a culture that has every convenience you could ever wish for: Wi-Fi, cell phones, all this other stuff. What are we missing? And I think part of that is that we don't return to the essence of who we are.
Right.
In the outdoors that we are a part of, and that is a part of us. In a spiritual sense, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think there's an innate, just a visceral or primal satisfaction that comes out of just like what we got back here, just sitting around a fire, sharing a meal around a fire. Yeah. You know, there's a tribal sense that there's something that there's a box that needs to be checked, or whatever you want to call it. But you can't deny that, or at least I can't, the feeling I get when I'm in these activities, when I'm out in the wild, whatever I'm doing. And to the degree where I get, you know, you can get carried away where you're like, man, I'm never going back. Yeah. You know, and it's like, well, no, you gotta go back. Yeah.
But it's kind of a little vacation from
you're just like, well, I can maybe figure out how to live without a house. You know, it's like it seems
materials don't appear to be, and we've wrapped up our society so much in that stuff.
Yeah, and possessed by our possessions, which is a big problem. And you know, the technology, and I think. I would argue that the frequency that we can compare ourselves to other people's projected happiness, which is all a fallacy anyway, you know, and we're all just putting out what we want people to see, you know, and that's, you know, everybody knows that. But I think there's a quote, and I think it's a Roosevelt quote. I may be wrong, but the quote goes something like, "Comparison is a thief of happiness."
That's good. And I like that.
Always loved it.
I like that's a good quote.
It's great because it's so true when you hear that. It's like, man, do not compare yourself to anybody. Yeah. Just like enjoy you and your experience. Yeah. And it's you know, and I think like now we're really trying to keep up with the Joneses. You know, we see, and I'm guilty of it. I'm terribly guilty of it because I'll post things for my tattoo career, my band, and now the fishing company, and it's, you want to see how the post performs, and it's such a dangerous metric to base your. Yeah. It's I'm not validated unless I've got hundreds of likes.
Yeah, that's just what I was going to say. We base it off of other people's reaction and engagement to our post, and we got to be careful as that as hunters and fishermen from the outdoors perspective, because. And I'll give you a good example of this. I film a kind of little TV show for a Roku channel that I'm airing it on now, and I haven't killed a trophy since 2014. For a trophy buck, a trophy deer. I've killed some axis, I've killed some other exotics, I've killed some hogs, and I've killed some spikes and some does and some culls. And I'm past that, dude.
Right.
I'm just past that.
Yeah.
I don't need to impress anybody anymore.
Right.
But our society is just like, well, you know, I watched a hunting show. I was telling Chester, our editor-in-chief, this the other day. I said, man, I watched a hunting show the other day where the dude introduced his own hunt. All right? The dude introduced his own hunt and then basically said, you're going to watch me shoot a 160 class booner with my 308 or whatever, my muzzleloader or whatever it was.
While he's out there?
Yeah, but it was while he was introducing the show in B-roll, and then basically moved into doing the hunt, and I was just like, what a pompous jerk to just introduce, get somebody else. I don't care if somebody bum off the street to introduce your show, but it's so pompous to talk about yourself in that way that you're going to watch me be some badass and check out how good I am. And I'm just like, I don't care how good you are. What good are you doing for the next generation? What good are you doing for the conservation of our sport? What good are you doing for initiatives that help this survive?
Yeah, I think if you're out there doing it solely for the attention, it becomes useless and redundant. And I think if you have some purpose, and whatever that purpose may be, to spread enlightenment in whatever capacity it might be, or just to leave someone with a better insight on where maybe I should appreciate this or that more, I think that's the goal. It's just an appreciation, just like finding or sharing that appreciation for what an experience we were capable to have, and how lucky we are for it. You know, I mean, for all its warts, you know, South Louisiana has its issues, but we live in, they don't call it a sportsman's paradise for nothing.
Yeah.
But I think people have abused it, and it's like the Wild West of bag limits, and people, everyone you talk to, man, all these old cats, like just the generation before me, and we had no bag, like trout had no limit. There were no size limits.
Like when you were
on
growing
trout.
up?
Yeah, so cigar trout. We were talking about this last night. Cigar trout was the term. So it's just like you can keep little tiny specks. So now right. So it's like 12 inch and up, but 25. So now it's like we're so used to just like people. It's just like with anything, man. People don't look past their nose, you know. And it's just we're gonna keep taking and taking and taking. And it's not gonna affect the ecosystem. Yeah. It's not, you know, whether it's, you know, oil. I mean, we look at what the oil industry's done to the marsh and the wetlands, and the way it's cut up and broken up.
Oh, good. I was going to bring this up in the last podcast. Deepwater Horizon happened right here in Venice, right off the coast of Venice.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, that was an absolute crap show. You know, that thing was, and it was just. And there was no easy answers to any of it, and BP was doing, but I mean that's something that directly affected the area we're in. I meant to work that into the last show, so I'm glad you said that.
Yeah,
but continue your point. I'm sorry.
Well, no, so I mean it's just overall, I think there's and that's an oversight of the longevity and what's going to happen when I'm gone, and you know, there's something to be said about. And this is not my words. I'm just kind of paraphrasing badly again.
It's okay, dude. You're in a good place.
There's something about a man who plants a tree that he'll never get the shade from. You know, and that, you know, in a nutshell. I might not be quoting that.
That's good,
but you get the idea.
I get the total idea.
I feel like I'm just going through my quote Rolodex now.
But
you know what I mean? But
these
things are coming up. But it is, you know, like you got to make moves that you won't really get the benefits from. It's being selfless to say, well, I want the generations that I don't even know yet to be able to experience this.
That's precisely where I was going with that, because I often say when somebody has died, especially unexpectedly, and this happened in my own life with a family member back in 2011, I spoke to the mom of a cousin of mine that passed away much younger than I was at the time, and I said, she has left a legacy with generations that aren't even born yet.
Yeah.
Which is what your dad did.
Yeah.
Which is what you and I are going to do. Because the one thing that I'm learning from, and I study a lot of Neil Donald Walsh, which is Conversations with God, and a lot of philosophical stuff, but his whole thing is, you know, he's asking God why, and God basically says, look, you know, life is not all about you. It's about the lives that you impact. It's about the people that you impact and how you impact them.
Right.
And I think in hunting and fishing, in the scope that I do this show with, the best of the outdoors, I'm trying to bring forward the concept that if we give back in some way, and invest in our. I mentor a young man that's 30 years old that basically is is just, you know, he's a great guy, but he's struggling and he wants to learn stuff about Texas outdoors and stuff like that. I've taken him under my wing the last I guess it's been about 6 or 7 years now, and we're going on a hog hunt, and I'm taking my son to come shoot one of his first hogs or whatever at a ranch. But basically, I'm investing in his legacy that he's leaving with his kids.
Right.
So when you look at it from those glasses, if you will, you look at it from those eyes, I mean, I think it broadens the spectrum of why we're really here from a purpose standpoint, and that's what this is getting a little deep for a Saturday, for a Tuesday night or whatever, but it's
all good.
I can tell you're going there with me, which is good.
I'm there.
But you know, I just I think it's important. I mean, I just think, but the legacies of the lives that are unborn yet. You know, that's kind of deep, but it's kind of true.
Well, yeah, because I mean, we have a tendency to think that, you know, the world revolves around us, and it's not. You know, it's so not that case. Right. And we have to look out for the future, because I mean, even just like on the close, like I've got children. You said you got a son. You got any more kids?
No, I've just got one 10-year-old.
Right.
Same age as your kid.
Yeah. So you know, you want it's like, God, at the very least, I want you to enjoy all this. But it's like, well, what about his kids? And what about those kids? And it's easy, for me, it's easy to make decisions that, at least I won't negatively impact the future, it's amazing the amount of people I see where I live who will just, with reckless abandon, throw trash on the side of the road and live in such a beautiful area. Like, it's a small fishing community, and just throw trash. Like, I pick up trash, like, off the side of my road where I live. And so much so that I started this little initiative called, so our town's Jean Lafitte, and it's named after the pirate. So me and a couple friends got together, and, I said, man, I want to start something, where we kind of, just an initiative to get people to clean up trash in Lafitte. Like, what can we do? We'll donate our time. We'll go, we'll take this particular strip of land, take some before video pictures, and then clean it up and take pictures after that. And just kind of light a fire under people. And we decided to call it Treasure Lafitte, a little play on words. We thought it was like a good pun. And I drew up this logo, like this pirate sword with a bunch of trash skewered onto it.
I love it.
And
that's great.
And the hilt of the sword forms the T, and then Treasure Lafitte builds off that. But anyway, so it's like stuff like that where it's like, okay, so we make it fun where it's like a group of guys will get together, or gals, anyone, and meet, and we'll clean up. And this was actually just starting to roll before the accident happened with my dad. So my buddy was actually just texting me yesterday saying, hey, let's get together. And just things have been so all over the place for me lately, just kind of recalibrating and finding a new normal, that now I'm finally kind of at a point where it's like, all right, well, we can move forward with this and do it. But our plan is eventually to get someone to, we'll form like a nice PowerPoint presentation and go to the school, go to my kid's school, go to the high school, and just show kids. It's like, because I don't think that parents, I think the majority of people, well, maybe I'm, overstepping, but either way, it seems like an alarming number of people are willing to just trash the area they live in. Yeah. And you see it all the time. And you're just like, what are you doing? To me, it's the most arrogant, lazy thing you could do when there's like trash cans everywhere you look. To just throw bags of trash out of your car.
Take care of your stuff.
Blows my mind.
Yeah. Trash blow out of your truck there, which we do in Texas all the time.
People
do in Texas. I don't want to say I do, but I'm just saying people do that.
Right. Yeah. So with that, just teaching the next generation of kids in our community. You got to start somewhere. So starting in our community, teaching them, hey, here's the beauty of your backyard and the ecosystem of the Barataria Basin and how beautiful it is. And look at all the trash on the side of the road. And don't you feel some accountability for that? Like, this is your yard. This is your house. It's a small...
cumulatively ours.
Yeah. You should feel some attachment to that. And some sense of pride and some sense of shame when you see it covered in trash. But I think there's so many people, and I've seen people who want to fight you over fishing spots, but then throw trash right over the boat. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Like this, it's like, oh, my daddy been fishing this spot, and his daddy, and this and that. It's like, okay, that's fine and all, but we're just borrowing this. We're just passengers. This isn't ours. But then trashing it, and it's like, just enjoy it. Let's do it together.
We've got to unite. We've got to get along.
Yeah.
But you're right. And the other thing to add to your point to that is Chester Moore, editor-in-chief, who has long hair and a beard and everything, just like you. Awesome dude. You really get along with him.
Sounds cool.
But he's a big heavy metal headbanger and everything. He's an awesome dude. But him and I have had several podcasts that we've done on this show where he basically said, look, just because I want clean water and I want a sustainable resource does not mean I'm some kind of liberal hippie, green, tree hugger. And again, I'm not banging on those people.
Right.
I'm just saying, don't label me as being a cannibal of your own species, if you will, in the hunting and fishing community. Don't label me as being some kind of weirdo if I end up wanting clean water and sustainable resources for the future. You know, but that's what the problem is, and I've talked about that ad nauseum on the show. That basically the problem is the division in with ourselves, and I've talked about this with a lot of fishing and hunting guests that I've had, you included. That basically, if we continue to fight and bicker about stupid crap, we're going to end up losing the sport, and we're going to lose a fight to somebody that you know doesn't like it as much as we do.
Right, and do you think that type of behavior is just like a certain amount of gaslighting because they're maybe, I don't know about insecurity or just ignorance on knowing no other way to have that conversation in a healthy way. So they say, oh, okay, whatever, hippie, tree hugger. It's like, no, man, like
it's easier to do that than to actually have a conversation.
Right. Yeah.
And a lot of it is ignorance, I think.
Uh-huh.
But most of the people who listen to this show, I can tell you for sure, don't feel that way, but because they've listened to me long enough. But, you know, it's just one of those things that I think needs to, you know, I hate to say this, and I had several guests on the show that I've done the Rodney King thing with. Can't we all just get along? We've got to unite in this sport. We've got hunting or fishing or whatever.
Right.
The outdoors to sustain this as a resource for the future.
Yeah. It seems easy enough.
Yeah, it does. It does, but and I'll give you a perfect example of this, Theophile, is Facebook. Oh. It's the groups. It's Texas, Central Texas Bow Hunter in the case of that, you know, or whatever the case may be. You know, any of these Texas groups, Louisiana groups, whatever, that there's bickering and there's fighting and there's all this stuff, and it's just like, you know, why? I mean, why? So anyway.
Well, I think with any collection of online presences like that, you get a lot of I think like an inflated or a magnifying of the negative aspects of human nature, because there is something different about the way people act face to face.
Yeah, versus
over a keyboard
warriors.
That whole thing. I think there's something to it, man. I think there's something to it, and I think it's just like an expression of the uglier sides of like the subconscious and what we want to say to people. But you know, generally it's not said because of the formalities of face to face. Because also, and it not even so much like like what Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
That's right. My boxing coach told me that the other day. He said, "Yeah, that's right. That's the way boxing works."
And it's like, man, so
it's funny you mentioned
that. that's the thing, man. I think I think that Facebook and just social media in general and the online avatars, if you will, of people is just it's just an inflation of the ugliness, and I think it's not a true representation of the state of humanity. It's just like, if we pay attention to that part of things, we can get disheartened. But I think it's, if you go to Facebook and you seek some sort of validation or so, use it as a barometer for the state of things, you may be kind of pulling from a narrow pool that may not really give you the best insight into it, you know. And I think in most of our human interactions, in our real interactions, I'm left with a positive feeling, you know, in most people. So I think like it's almost like that's just some subsect of society that this is not true. It's just like it's like our ugliest forms manifesting, you know. And I think it's easy to get caught up in that. And don't get me wrong, I do too, but that's why I stop. Like, you know, you stop scrolling. It's like, why am I on this?
What am I doing?
What is this? You know, it's like I'll just kind of post and just leave it alone and avoid it. And like every few days I'll pop in. I'm like, look at this. I don't care about any of it. Like any of my notifications. So it's good, but you know, I'm still pretty like in tune to Instagram. So I always feel like kind of this weird negative pull. But Instagram is. You could definitely see like, okay, these people are like, just how many selfies can you post of yourself in a different angle, and it's like I see right through that.
It's shallow after a while,
right? Yeah. And it's just, you know, like you say, narcissists. But I think, you know, it's the negative waves, I think, travel further, and they make a bigger stink and a bigger impact on you. You know, when you meet somebody and they're just like a psychic vampire and they just suck the life right out of you, and those people like stick with you for days. And it's like, God, what was that guy's problem? You know? But when you meet somebody who just really like makes a great positive impression on you, you just want to hug them and you're like, man, let's be friends. You know, like, but I feel like that doesn't charge you up as much as the bad ones take out of you.
Right.
You know.
And my whole point is, regardless of all of that, is to build each other up.
Yeah.
To invest in each other and not tear each other down. And the thing is, I say that on this show because I know there's some people that listen that may have in the past done that, and it's just one of those things where, what's the point of doing that to each other, man? What's the point? What's the point of what's that doing to our sport?
Yeah.
And just having that mindset of, here, I'm here to help you and not tear you down and not tell you that your way because you like squirrel hunting versus big deer hunting or big game hunting, or if you like redfish instead of shark or whatever the case may be. I mean, who cares?
We like our tribes.
Yeah,
it's a thing, man.
It's it. And if you're not part of our tribe, then there's a door. So,
but then isn't it funny because it's like, hey, we're all the tribe of outdoors. Like we want to enjoy these things.
I know it is.
But it's like then we have to narrow it down further. Like, you're a freshwater guy? Fly fishing guy, huh? He's a weirdo.
Yeah.
And it's like, God.
All of a sudden you form an opinion of me.
Oh, my God. Anyway. And it's where does it end? Like what delineation does it end? It was like, okay, well, you like to catch fish? You like to be in a boat? Yes. Cool. All right. What type of boat you? Yeah, and it's like it's just an appreciation for being out there in nature. Because, man, anybody that's like, man, I just love going to a strip mall and just sitting there and smelling that asphalt and popping into the Dollar General. Man.
Give me some cold beer and, just hang out.
Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, it doesn't sound terrible.
Food. Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. No, it's true, though. I mean, there's something to be said about what we do and why and that's one reason why I do this show, is just to remind us all of why we love the outdoors and how therapeutic it is and how how beneficial it is. And we talk a lot at this event about brands and stuff and really cool things that are coming out and those kind of things. That's all great. But I'm all about what I wanted to do with you at this show is about the essence of why we do it.
Right.
Which I talk about a lot of my solo stuff, and I get that, and my audience probably finished listening to it. But I really think that gets to the heart of the issue of why we need to learn the purpose of why we hunt and fish to really see the essence of our soul, if you will. And that's kind of deep, but
Well, I think it's within us. I think from whatever you subscribe to, how long you think human beings have been here. I think mankind's been here for a long time, and I think we've definitely it's in our blood to be out there, and there's a torch that we're carrying, and our ancestors weren't sitting inside concrete structures, like that. There's never a time when I'm inside four walls feeling some kind of way in tune with something, just a visceral, primal, feeling, where you find yourself out in the woods or in the swamp or in the mountains or wherever you're at, and there's just something that hits you a different kind of way. And when you, especially if you go and take your own deer or fish, whatever it is, you provide for yourself and then therefore your family.
Yes.
There's just something in that. Now I tried to explain that to this a lady over the weekend, and she kept giving me a lot of pushback. And I realized quickly that she had been experiencing a lot of male, chauvinism. Yeah. She was, and rightfully so.
She was kind of jaded, I guess.
She was like, well, I just don't understand. Like, I've never felt like I should have to provide. I was talking about how young men, should do this and should do that and learn to provide. And she's like, well, I've just never felt like someone should provide for me. And I said, well, okay, I see where you're coming from. But you got to understand, like, you're giving me blowback, but I'm not saying that by me providing for my wife, I'm not saying that she can't do this.
On her own, yeah.
I'm just, because my wife is extremely independent, and she's a hard-working woman. She's a nurse. She's a great nurse. It's, for me, there's a certain pride in being a man, knowing that I can provide for her. And it's not to reduce her. I think it's just as chivalry. And I think there's a weird thing that's happening in certain sections of society where chivalry becomes punished. Or I don't know if you've ever experienced holding a door open for a woman.
Oh, all the time, yeah.
And I don't need that.
Yeah.
And it's
push you off, and it's just like, but I'm trying to be what I always say is I'm trying to be a gentleman. And they usually chuckle about that, and they're just kind of like, but I've had that same thing happen to me.
But what am I supposed to? But it's like there's no in between. Like there's no, like it's either that or like cat calling you and staring at you. It's like, right, and it's like, dude, it ain't about that. And it's like, that really bothers me because it's like, man, if you know me, I'm not that type of person. I'm not saying you're incapable of holding the door. I think you're reading into it a lot. You know, these types of things. It's like,
or providing for yourself or whatever.
It's like, it's like, good Lord. I'm just trying to be nice. I do it to men. If you're within 4 steps of the door that I just opened, you're getting it held open for you.
Yeah, sure.
Guy, girl, I don't care. It's just, for me, I feel dumb to let it close in. It's just nice. You know, it's so easy to be nice. And I put my head at the pillow at night and I feel good about myself. That wasn't a jerk, you know. But you experience these things. So I was telling this girl, I was like, you know, it's not about me thinking that you as a woman are inferior. It's not at all. Like I love women. I was raised by so many women. Like I was an only child. My dad, my uncle. I had great male role models. But I spent a lot of time with my mom and my nanny, my mom's sister. They owned a hair salon, so it was like Steel Magnolias, dude. I grew up in it, man.
Yeah.
Big old bushy hair 80s, just bouffants. Yeah. And it's like, man, you know. So I respect women. I love women. And it's like, it always bums me out when I experience that. It's like, why do you think that this is anything of me trying to take anything from you? Yeah. You know? Yeah, but because there are so many tools out there. Yeah. And then it's just human nature and it's everything. The people who are willing to trash nature, the people who are willing to degrade people, women, men, whatever. Just, it's respect. You know, it's a respect for nature, it's a respect for humanity, respect for yourself, and I think there's an abundant lack of respect in general in people today. Yep. Oh man, it gets deep.
It does, man. And this has been such an enlightening conversation for me.
Good.
I really hope that you've enjoyed your time.
I have. This is great.
This has been good.
I'd love to do it again.
Yeah, I'd love to have you again. I mean, it's nice to have an intelligent conversation about the outdoors sometimes. Besides just, hey man, what'd you kill? You know?
Yeah, I agree.
About the deeper subjects of conservation and giving back and you know the therapy of the outdoors and just the stuff that I talk about from time to time on the show. But just to have a show dedicated to that, besides just try to alternate hunting and fishing every episode.
Yeah.
But, this has been great.
Well, so thanks, man. Thank you for having me.
Tell people how to find you.
All right, NewOrleansFishing.com. Check me out. And we got Instagram at bourgeois_charters. Yeah, that's about it, man.
I'll put you
Theophile Bourgeois. Try and spell it. You can spell it, I'll give you $5.
That's good.
Not you. You got a card in front of you.
That's right. Well, yeah, there's me, but then everyone's gonna have the show notes and be able to spell it that way.
Oh,
you can spell
can we edit
the show notes?
Can we edit that out?
And not see anyway, it's funny.
I've only got so many $5.
So many $5 bills. No, I know you're just joking, but yeah, I will. I'll put all your info in the show notes. You're gonna let's see, Theophile Bourgeois Fishing Charters. You got your phone number here. I'll put all that in the show notes.
Awesome.
For people to call you for a fishing trip.
And if you ever want to come back to Louisiana, come check out the lodge, man.
Yeah, I'd love to. It's in New Orleans, then I assume?
We're about 19 miles south of New Orleans.
Cool.
Yeah.
And do y'all just do fishing trips then?
Fishing trips, we do hog hunts, frogging, whatever, bow fishing. If there's nutria hunt, you want to go on a nutria hunt?
Yeah,
if there's something to get into, we could do it.
Do y'all eat the nutria?
Oh, yeah.
Heck, I hear it's pretty good.
It is. It's nice. It eats grass and grain. Like it's fun. Cool. It ain't nothing.
All right, and so I'll put your Instagram info in there, and then so you've got hunting and fishing trips both, and so you're easy to find and got a big lodge. So
absolutely, big great cuisine, large,
which we sample tonight. So
got a little bit of redfish tofu. I'm glad you liked it, man. Yeah, there's plenty more of that.
Turf, really, we had some.
Oh man, the steak was good. Soft little steak nuggets.
Yeah, it was good, and I'm a big steak guy myself, so that was good. But I appreciate you, joining me. And it's just, I knew when I met you the first time we met together in New Orleans 2 nights ago. I was like, I gotta have this suit on my chest. So I just knew that I got
awesome,
also,
man.
You're a band, and then you're a tattoo guy, and yeah. So,
the band's Them Old Ghost. THEMOL_GHOSTS. It's like Southern Soul rock and roll.
Cool.
I've been tattooing for like 15 years, and now it's kind of taking a break from that, which is great. honestly, it's nice. As a creative, I think you get bored with certain paths, and you got to kind of bounce it around.
I'm creative, I understand.
Yeah, so that's it. You got to keep, kind of bounce around. So you have fun. Yeah,
well, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. And thank you guys so much for watching, reading, and listening. Have an awesome day in the outdoors. We'll see you next time.